Alright, today we're having a look at Unit 27, A Place in Space by markybarlow. Alright, so here we are in A Place in Space by markybarlow, and starting off, got some really solid on music going on here. Okay, we gotta get up to there. Wah wah. I probably should have waited, shouldn't I have? Well, that's okay. The music may be a wee bit loud. I had to turn down my headphones just to... Disco, come on. It's 4:30 in the morning. That's no excuse. I had to turn down my headphones just a little bit because it is a creative track. It's a cool track, but it's a bit loud. So hopefully my voice will come through for you. Marky, we've looked at a number of Marky's levels either on stream or in before, and a very, very solid creator. Very, very good sense of space. Oh, crumbs. I thought maybe we'd have to grab onto that block. Where did I go? Where did I go? Okay. That is one issue, though, I do find with Marky's levels, is that they're very, very big and beefy. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of detail. It's a really good selling point, but it does kind of slow down loading. It does make that aspect of it a wee bit difficult. Why am I playing so terribly? Thank you. No! Ah! Marky! I'm so sorry. I should have been doing a little bit more air control there. I did notice the R1 though, thankfully. Now I have been following the saga of this levels creation on the left stick, right stick Discord, and it's been pretty problem filled because of profile crashes and corruptions on the game end. And I know that's been like a lot of stress on Marky getting the level out, so I'm really, really glad when I finally saw the notice in left stick, right stick to direct to the level link, because I've been waiting for this for a while. Now, where do we go? Can I jump on those blocks? No. Maybe I gotta get... Okay, so we don't want to touch the blocks at all. They're electrified. Gotcha. Okay, we can get to that. It was a little bit tough to tell what... Oh, buggery. Marky, I am so sorry. I wish I was showing this off a little bit better. Why am I not getting that jump? One thing I do appreciate about Marky's levels is that they're not just to look at. They're really good gameplay tests as well. I gotta figure out what to do there, but we've got almost no time left. We're gonna have to go back to the hub, Marky. I'm sorry, but we'll see you there and we'll talk about it. See yas! And we're back. And Unit 27, Place in Space by markybarlow, the long-awaited new one by markybarlow. I'd say it's a green circle. I really, really liked it. There are some issues with it that some people might feel drag it down just a little bit. I don't think they're severe enough, they're big enough to really bring it to a yellow square. This is very, very solid on. The cameras in my hub, I don't know what's going on with them. Yeah, but this is great. I love the environment that Marky puts together. I love the environments Marky puts together. I've played a lot of Marky's levels, and they're all really, really solid on. But there's a cohesion to the environments that I really, really appreciate. They feel like places in their own right. They feel like they have an existence. There's a lot of movement in the environments. There's a lot of animation. When you trigger certain things, for example, and the walls don't just go into the background or just move, but you'll have kind of locks moving around before they move, as though they're kind of, well, they're locked in place and they need to be rotated before that can go. Like, I love little details like that, and Marky's always really, really good with those details. Now, one slight downside to that, and it's not on Marky, it's just on the engine and how LBP3 deals or doesn't deal with things very well, is that can introduce some screen tearing, that can introduce some slowdown and lag. We saw some of that when we died and popped back out in the video, but honestly there's a lot less of it than I found in Marky's previous levels, and that's because it's a more contained, it's a tighter level than some of the previous ones that we've played. I think the first time I finished it, it clocked in at maybe around 18 minutes or so. I really should have checked the second playthrough on the recording to see how long it took that time. I think it took a lot shorter the second time through. But I've been talking on LSRS with Marky about doing this level, and he said he'd been having a lot of corruption issues and having a lot of crash issues and thermo issues, and this level needed to be smaller to compensate for that. But I think that helps out with some of the loading issues, it helps out with some of the lag issues, and I think it helps the level feel that it's not overstaying its welcome. Sometimes with really, really big, beefy levels, when you're looking at like 30 or 40 minutes of a level, and even if it's really great, even if it's really good, sometimes you're just like, I need this to be over. This one, I think it's long for me, but it doesn't feel super long. It doesn't feel like it's going on forever, and I think that's well, it's important for me because I've only got so much time to record, so that is a point. The music as well is an absolute banging track. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if this is something that Marky put together himself, or if he got a friend to do it or found it in the community, but it's really cool, and I really like that. The gameplay it's got some of the hallmarks that we've seen in other levels by Marky. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of running around, there's a lot of going through layers. The kind of dealing with other objects in the environment using the right D stick, and at one point the L1 and L2 buttons, but that only shows up at one point. We've seen that in other Marky levels before. It's kind of it seems to be a bit of a trademark, or perhaps it's becoming a trademark for Marky. I like it. I think it's really cool. It's an interesting effect, and getting the player to do more, getting the player to interact more with the environment is something that I always appreciate. Now, one downside that I did find, and it's kind of going back to the environmental presentation, and it's a bit of a victim of its own success, because, as I said, it looks like a real place in the real, well, a real world, and when we look around, our own environments in the real world, and interactable objects, so to speak, buttons, levers, things you can yank on, they don't always look the same, and our brains parse it pretty easily. This is a metal lever and this is a wooden lever, and we don't get confused and think like, oh my god, what do I do with this new thing? But sometimes in a game, in a level, when we're using different materials to achieve the same effect, and it can be confusing is perhaps not entirely the right word for it, but it can slow down, I think, processing just a little bit, where you kind of think, what am I supposed to do here? What is the gimmick? What is the trick? There's one part, for example, well, right, let's unpack this. Earlier on in the level, and also later on in the level, Marky's used a kind of a gray spongy material as a grabbable object, usually the rotating grabbable objects. And you've already seen that twice earlier on in the level, so your brain's kind of thinking, okay, gray spongy material, we can grab onto that. Then we get to this section where there are a pair of pillars with rotating spikes on them, moving back and forth into the background. That's actually a really cool effect. I really like that an awful lot. And you're supposed to grab onto something that's going to rotate you over some red plasma bits, and those are actually really cool as well. The problem is that the thing that you're supposed to grab onto is not the same material as the grabbable material earlier, and it looks like it can look like a part of the environment, and so I kind of spent a little while there just looking around thinking, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to interact with this? Am I supposed to just jump over those red plasma bits? Well, obviously that's not going to work because I die. Eventually it clicked. I noticed the roundness of the objects, and oh, well, maybe if I try to grab it, it'll rotate me over, and that's in fact what it did. But because there is a difference in materials there, that it did kind of pop out in my brain, I'm confused, what do I do? So they kind of gotta balance that, how much do you want the environment to be diegetic, but how much do you want the environment to be quickly parsable from a gameplay standpoint so that players don't get confused, don't get slowed down, and do understand what you want them to do. Now, the other point, and I'm wondering if this is possibly getting into the ratio of the level here. Looking, it's got 317 people have played the level or had played the level at the point when I recorded it this morning. It had been played a total of 409 times, but it only been completed 34 times. So you've got a lot of folks that are bouncing out of this level, which is a shame because it's really, really good. But I wonder if this midpoint sequence might be it. So what you've got a couple of blocks that you're going to be moving over with the right stick. And that'll trigger triggerable bounce pads that you can go back and forth over. Eventually, you're going to get down to a point. It's going to... let me think how to do this. You've got to move it so you can grab a teleporter. Teleporter effect's really, really cool, by the way. And then move it back over so that a Velociraptor is going to light up. You can jump in the Velociraptor and you can move on with the level. It's all really, really cool. But it's a pretty beefy sequence with no mid-checkpoint. And I don't think there's a really good place to put a checkpoint there, because it would just break up the flow of that obstacle. It's a longer obstacle, but I could see people getting tripped up there, having to do the entire obstacle over again, and getting tripped up again, and just having to repeat that, and maybe that's what's causing some players to crash out. One thing about that obstacle that I noticed, now, the obstacle here, it's not just really moving things around, but you've got this three... Hi, my brain. You've got 3 pillars with spikes on them. Shigao. You've got 1 pillar, spikes on both ends. It's twisting to the right and to the left. And it was kind of weird when I played it the first time and I didn't know what I was doing, because it seems like the pillar is in a middle layer. And you've got a layer ahead that you're interacting with. You've got a layer in the back that you're interacting with. It's kind of jumping over that pillar. But I noticed that when I was in the front or back layer, when the spiked bits passed by my character model, I still died. It seemed kind of odd, like they shouldn't have been able to hit my hitbox, so to speak, where I was standing, because they don't actually go into the layers where I was standing. But that was getting me killed. I think that's intended, but just the way that it's presented and the way that it must be presented, because of the way that the decoration fits into the area, it was a bit weird. It seemed like it shouldn't have been killing me, but it was. We're already at 13 minutes. Oh my god, I talked too much. I love this level. Marky, you did a really, really good job here, and I look forward to more levels from you in the future. I know that you don't have all the time in the world to create, and I know that your creations do take a lot of time, because a lot of work is clearly going into them, and they are, even the shorter ones are really quite beefy, but I would just love to see more from you. But I think we really, really need to wrap it up here before people fall asleep. So, play this level. Unit 27, A Place in Space. It's really, really good. But that just about does it for us here. So, from me, Disco, here in Osaka, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you. Arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.